Pig girls, reproduction programs, interspecies wet dreams. Wow, have we got a book for you today on panelism. Welcome to Panelism, a podcast where we talk about the comics and graphic novels worth having on your shelf. I'm Todd A.
I'm Taylor Trask.
So you got a funny preview of what I'm going to talk about today on the show. And you said, what is it with you and these weird comic books right before we went live?
I mean, it's like you had the top Canon God X Axion Stage 1 or whatever the hell that book was called.
Yeah, I did tell you about the book that I'm talking about today a while ago, yep. And I mistakenly described it as, I was like, I think it's sort of about furries, and you had a very, very visceral reaction to that.
Yeah, I'm not a big furries fan, man. I think I think furries should permanently be a second-class citizen, and
yeah, you were very furist.
Yeah.
But this is not a book about furries. I don't know. I mean, I guess I should just jump into it. We've already chuckled about it. So
I think so. What's
use doing chit chat.
What's it called? What's the title?
Yeah. So the book I'm talking about is called Unnatural. It is written and illustrated by Mirka Andolfo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She is an Italian artist. She wrote it, drew it, colored it, everything. Like, this is, such a definition of creator-owned and controlled project. It's published by Image. It's still an ongoing series. It started releasing last year in 2018.
It's that new. I didn't realize that. Okay.
But so a couple of asterisks on that are, so the first volume came out in December, I think, which is just 4 issues. And what I understand is this entire story was previously published in Italian, and she is just doing a translation into English. But I've had the hardest time sourcing that. Like, that's what I heard when I was started reading it, and I just can't back that up exactly. So I'm sorry that my Googling fell short. But yeah, that's what's those are the basic biographical details. Let me give you the back cover, which is: Leslie is a simple pig girl. She loves sushi. She's stuck with a job she hates, and she lives under a brutal totalitarian government, one that punishes transgressors for anything deemed unnatural. She dreams of something different for herself, but those dreams are becoming dangerous. Oh, it does say this Italian hit series by Mirka Andolfo. So she's done a lot of like American Big Two work. And I believe mostly as an illustrator for like Wonder Woman and Harley Quinn, Bombshells. The back cover continues: this will transport you into a colorful but terrible world full of anthropomorphic creatures, but light on personal freedoms by way of a breathtaking plot that travels between thriller and fantasy with a hint of sensuality. So
it sounds like you're reading like I often joke that you and I are sort of sommeliers of comics and graphic novels. That sounds just like a wine label. Like, yeah. It oh my God. I will ask you right out of the gate though. One thing that popped in my head was Animal Farm. Does this sort of have the political allegory attached to it that Animal Farm does? Not just because she's a pig girl, a simple pig girl, but just that idea seemed to kind of pop up as soon as you read that.
What a crazy connection. I hadn't really thought of it, but yes.
Ding, 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 ding.
I mean, it's not, it's definitely not like a retelling. It's its own thing, but that is interesting for the animal elements and the totalitarian elements, I guess. So also I primed you that there's even within this first volume, there are a lot of like, there's spoiler territory immediately. So I'm not gonna spoil it all. I'm just gonna try to give you the pitch and let you pick it up and decide for yourself.
Great.
It was definitely not what I expected. And I think I shared with you one of the variant covers from issue number 1. Like, look at this thing I'm sending. Yeah.
Right there. What did you expect?
Well, so this variant cover was a naked woman with a curly Q pigtail, like sort of where a tramp stamp might be on her back, and a pig nose. And I think maybe her ears looked a little weird, but it was from the back. So you just see a naked pig girl, like sitting on her, like on her knees.
And Todd thought, sign me up.
I think she was like embracing someone. And I see this in the comic book shop with that like parental advisory sticker that's, totally voluntary, but the comic shop, puts it on like, hey, if you're over 18, like it's in a bag.
Yeah.
You got to be over 18 to open this bag. But they put the sticker right over what I would delicately call the butthole.
Okay.
And, immediately I was like, what are they like? What did they have to block? Did that really appear on the cover of this issue? It doesn't, not in that like graphic form. It was just very delicately placed in this area. But it was, right away, this was recommended to me by my friend Lainey way back in last summer when we talked about Punk Rock Jesus on an episode. Later on, I'd ask her what she was reading, and she said, "Oh, you got to check out the series. I love this artist." And I started picking up the separate issues, and I remember opening the first one and kind of reading a couple pages and going, like, "What the hell is going on?" There is like naked sex, like right away, not like X-rated or anything, but there's like two naked bodies, and and I read a couple pages and went like, oh boy, I don't know about this. But then I bought the second issue, having not completed the first one. And then of course bought the third one. And then of course bought the fourth one. But by that time we had decided to read it for our book club. I did not actually read any of those issues. And when I was getting on a plane in December, I thought, you know what, I'll get this on Comixology. There was some sale or whatever. So I bought the whole volume on Comixology. Quickly determined I could not read this on a plane or in any public space, but I did read it that week and really loved it. So it's hard to say what my expectations exactly were, but they were, I just, I thought it was going to be, I actually thought it was going to be more of a weird erotic story. And it kind of surprised me that was from Image, but in those first few pages, I didn't get a sense of like, where is this going? I clearly did not even, I must have read like 4 pages or something, because what's happening is Leslie, the pig girl, it basically lives on a planet. I mean, you can assume it's Earth. I don't remember that they call it anything else. It's just like our Earth. They are all sort of humanoids. But
that sounds very much like, but wait, that sounds kind of Saga-esque.
Sort of. I mean, Saga is definitely playing with Saga, it's like everything is unexpected, it's not like an Earth that you recognize. There's but there's definitely like I guess on Saga the difference is you assume these are the same species with different features or something, and in Unnatural it's very clear that they are not the same species. That's a very weird word for me that comes up in Unnatural. Like they're very against hybrid breeding and interspecies relationships. And it's not sci-fi. It's like she gets on her scooter, she buys CDs, she eats sushi. Like it's just, early 2000s kind of culture. Like she's just, it goes to her job and
so this isn't a far future where evolution has taken. Okay. This is just like an alternate.
In fact, there's no explanation of that at all. And what is that kids movie with the cop that's a rabbit?
The cop that's a rabbit.
Oh my God! Everybody.
Oh, Zootopia.
Yeah, it's Zootopia, basically.
Okay. Oh, so there's not any humans at all.
No.
Oh,
I mean, these are the humans.
Got it.
So what we learn is that Leslie's turning 25. It starts on her birthday. She awakes from the opening pages that were sexual as this erotic dream she keeps having of this encounter with this anthropomorphic wolf. And, she wakes up, her roommate's waking her up. Her roommate's name is Trish, just so I don't forget that name. And they, they talk about her birthday and like Leslie's worried about what being 25 means, but she has to get to work. And then we're presented with this like really interesting, like hilariously colorful, like sort of what you can imagine as her watching a cartoon infomercial, which is about the reproduction program that this planet has, or this country has, or whatever, what the government has instilled, which is basically if you have not married by the time you're 25, they mandatorily enlist you in a reproduction program to find you a mate.
Whoa.
And it's basically done like computer dating. Like you were sent an email to an app that you were required to join, and then you were matched up and you have to go on that date. And the catch here is that you have to date within your species and you cannot date the same sex.
Whoa.
So, you know, at once it's like very obvious that this is, like that the themes of this are sort of freedom of choice and your, body autonomy, racism and sexual oppression, and this government sort of leading all that. I mean, that's, very clear, but it's not that the comic itself, like that the story itself deals with that and like really confronts it. I mean, they're all upset by it. Mm-hmm. It turns out that there's also a tax. So it's like, if you don't get a mate and you don't get married to someone of your species, well, first of all, it's very clear that if you are in a homosexual relationship or an interspecies relationship, you will just be like an outcast. It's one of those things where like an oppressive regime is definitely branding you like an outsider and what's the word I'm trying to think of? You're basically a suppressive person at that point. Sorry, Taylor and my Scientology vocabulary comes out. You're the other.
We're not. Hey, real quick for listeners who don't know, we're not Scientologists. We just love hating them. So we know all their vernacular and everything too. So
I don't hate them.
I hate them. I will say that they. I mean, if you're an ex-Scientologist, I love you. But if you're still in it, and I say that because I don't want people thinking, wait, are they Scientologists?
Yeah. We didn't mean it in that way, of course. No. You're an apostate, basically.
There we go. Yes.
So if you, but it's, it's worse than that. It's very, it's very clear that like you will be ostracized in a very racism kind of way. But the flip to that is like, so it's not really an option to marry someone outside of your species or have a homosexual relationship, but you will be taxed if you are not married to the same species. Like this incredible tax hits you when you turn 25. So this is Leslie's 25th birthday, on which we meet her, and she kind of has this bad day at work. We meet her other like BFF, who's I can't remember the animal he is, but they're all different animals. But he's sort of like a goat looking man named Derek.
Sounds like the beginning of a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah.
My name's Derek. I'm a goat man.
Yeah, he's Trish is kind of like a mouse girl. So she has like big floppy ears and like a little mouse nose, and she has a tail. And Derek is like this goat. He's got horns. And what Derek has been trying to arrange with Leslie is she wants to set Leslie up with his boyfriend, who is a pig boy. So they would be the same species. They would get married. The reproduction program would sign off on it as a legitimate a union. Mm-hmm. Derek would still have to pay his taxes, but he would know that his boyfriend was protected and Leslie was protected. Okay. It's a classic like Beard sort of scenario, to the prejudiced family. So Leslie's afraid of that. She's like, but if they found us, it's like a green card scenario, I guess is a better example. If they found out, we would be criminals. And he's, points out to her like, hey, look, you're a criminal just for having those dreams. Like you are getting to this, this point of like illegality with your fantasies. So apparently all her friends know about these crazy wet dreams she has about this a wolf man.
Well, wait, that brings up a good question. Is like thought crime a thing in this world? You don't get the impression that that there's any way that they're actually like reading the thoughts. Okay. It's just sort of it's like a Catholic. It's if you think it, it's still a sin.
Yeah. Or it's very much like I guess we would say the more oppressive days of prejudice against homosexuals, like even in our country, where it's like, even if you're not exploring that curiosity with another person, like if you just checked a book out of the library or you bought a certain magazine or went to a certain movie, like that might put the authorities on your trail, you know? So for example, I mean, I won't say any spoilers about it, but later on she does find a book that's about just this very thing happening. And so it's very, you know, it's very intriguing to her, like, oh wait, there's, you know, like there's other people talking about this. Like, so, yeah, so Derek has this set up for her. She's having this terrible day at work. That Derek and she work at the same place. Their boss is this alligator man, and he's screaming at them, and he's very like lewd and suggestive towards Leslie, and he's made all the women dress in these like skimpy little outfits, and of course that doesn't make her happy. And they sort of make fun of her weight. She's a little chubby, and so they, you know, they're like, yeah, you can't squeeze into our new uniform, and it's a bad day, and this is her birthday. So she, you know, comes home. She's in the bath, of course. I mean, I say of course because it just feels like whenever she's nude, she's having like some fantasy like this. And her roommate again surprises her, and her roommate has brought sushi for her birthday, and they have this happy dinner, and they're like, she's feeling better. And then just then she gets an email on her phone, and she looks at it, and it's the reproduction program, and they found her like on the very day she turned 25. Wow. So she has to join the app. So chapter 2 really concerns her experience, like joining that app and having to go through, it almost turns into like a reality show. Like they are, you know, making her look her best or something. Like it's almost like dating reality show. And actually I shouldn't have just generalized chapter 2. That's what just happens after this. You know, she's entered into this sort of, dating, computerized dating thing, you know, so they're squeezing her into tight cocktail dresses, and they're messing with her hair, and she has no choice in it. And it's like, you know, what's going, it's obviously, it's just like hell, you know, it's just these people in her personal space, and not giving her any choice in the matter. And then she winds up on this date with this like hunk of a dude, and he says all the right things, you know, and it's like, you know, he thinks it's awkward too. And, you know, that's where I kind of have to stop the description, because things, I mean, you might gather from the way I stop it at that point that like things don't go as expected, but you can almost expect that they don't go as they expected, but they just take a couple of crazy twists.
Can I ask a very, this is a potentially spoilery question, because as soon as you stopped it right there, my mind went, okay, this is one of those stories where, you know, they fall in love, and then they get kept, maybe the government keeps them apart or something, or they have to, like, you know, go on the run together, like almost like, you know, one of those classic kind of 70s sci-fi movies that you would see. But my mind also asked, is this one of those things? Did the government create this guy for her? Is this like, is that a spoilery question to ask? Does it matter? Is it like, is he manufactured specifically for her?
Yes, it is spoilery to ask that.
Okay, so then I mean,
it's not.
You don't have to say anymore.
Yeah, it's not. This is not a genuine date, but you like pretty quickly have the rug pulled out from under you, like in several ways of like, you know, like it's not just a setup in a very clear way.
I said 70s sci-fi movies, which I stick with, but what I should have said, I mean, that almost kind of sounds like 1984, talking about another, I mean, this whole thing sounds very George Orwellian. Like it has a very Orwellian vibe.
Yeah. And super contemporary about, you know, where social media and technology and society like all, you know, overlap, and how the government is actually, you know, they have their own version of this social media to force her into marrying someone of her species. You know, I mean, it is, you know, it is what would happen in any theocracy, you know, that was allowed to sort of make laws based on the myths that they believe. I mean, this is in different ways a very similar story to Bitch Planet. But it's told in this, like the artwork is so fun and colorful, and like, I mean, you know, hesitate to use this word because it's on the back cover, and it does sound like a sommelier or something, but it is thrilling and fantasy. It's thriller and fantasy, and there's this sensuality to it. You know, it's got these just bright, vivid, like, you know, bold colors that are not just of one, like, you know, it's not just all like warm, reds and pinks and oranges and stuff. It's like there's nice cool colors, and it goes between them really well, and it like uses the color a lot to tell the story, and it uses just the panels, like the way the panels do close-ups on just body parts, like really extreme close-ups. Like there's just one of the lips of Leslie and her date, like as they're talking, there's sort of an awkward moment of silence, like that they're going to kiss, and it's like the super super close up of that. Or the way it approaches the sensuality of Leslie, where she's just naked in the bathtub having her fantasy about this Wolfman creature. And it's Bitch Planet is a harsh like not apocalyptic, but it's like a dystopian, future kind of thing for our own Earth, where theocracy is involved. And this is, like I said, it's like a Zootopia version of that, but of course R-rated, with naked animals.
Now, when you first started explaining it, I thought this would be kind of another male gaze book, kind of like Canon Godic's Axion, in that. But but the fact that your friend is it your name Jeannie Laney Laney referred it to you. You read it in your book club, which obviously has some female members. Like it's obviously not. It sounds like it's just as the female readers seem to appreciate the way it's handled.
Woman.
Yeah.
So it is. It is by a woman and about a woman. Like it is. Definitely putting it in that context of these anthropomorphic humanoids. I guess in that way, it's never strident or like too on the nose about the body autonomy. But it's just it's just like I described. Like when she's getting prepped by this, like a government agency that runs through this app, like when she's getting prepped for a date and they don't like the clothes she's wearing or the way she's done her hair. And like there are hands touching her. And it's that feeling of like, oh Jesus, like get your hands off this woman like that. It's, it's not, they're not rough with her or being violent or something. It's just like, oh my God, they are trying to control her body in this very, very obvious way. And it's so, because I guess
can I interrupt real quick? Why do you think? Because if the author artist is Italian, I'm just trying to think culturally, like where the story came from her side. Because Italy's, women can. I don't. Maybe I'm out of touch, but when I was in Italy, and just from what I know of Italy, like it's a pretty open culture for women. They can dress and do and be as. It's not puritanical in the slightest. So I'm curious, like where. Like, was this purely, was this fantasy? Was this influenced by stuff she was experiencing? Like, I'm just trying to get a sense of that.
I don't know. And it's, it's so weird that it kind of defies that. Like you can't just sort of put your finger on it. But Italy is the Pope lives there.
Yeah,
or that's true. He lives in his own little principality inside the country of Italy. But it's, I'm sure they've dealt with this a lot over the centuries. But I, that definitely probably, I would assume contributes to the sensuality of it, that this is not a militaristic view of femininity like Bitch Planet almost is. Bitch Planet, it's like once they're on the Bitch Planet, like they are hardcore, like physically, if not violent, like they're just, like physically controlling women. Like the women themselves become, violent, I guess, and physical. And this is not, this is a cute little pig girl that's like kind of chubby and she's sensuous and, rides her cute little scooter and loves sushi. And so it's very like, it plays against that, I guess. Whereas the American view of that dystopia is militaristic. The Italian view of it is still kind of sensual and goofy and stuff. And it's not like the characters are, it also does a good job in an allegorical way or metaphorical or whatever. I don't know. It's one or the other of like, it's just the visual representation of them. They are oppressed by the government, but I don't know. I don't know that you could say they're repressed. It's not like they're dressing like, a Mormon fundamentalists or something, they're not head to toe in these, old timey dresses or something like that. Like they are Leslie's not afraid to, wear short shorts and, thigh-high fishnet stockings or whatever. Like, that's just, she's just herself. It's just that the government's making decisions for her reproduction.
Do you ever get a sense of her family, her mother or father or sisters,
Yes.
and like siblings? Like, are they all like well-behaved pig people, or does their mother constantly give her shit about, stretching the limits of social norms and mores and all that?
Yeah, that's why I checked myself on like citing what comes from what chapter, because there is a pretty extended flashback sequence where we start to put together her backstory. Mm-hmm. And, it's just done in a really cool way. It looks beautiful. That's another place where the colors help to tell the story so much, because all of a sudden the flashback is like very blue and muted in that way. And you're seeing a young pig girl. And as she overhears conversations that her parents are having, and you also are able to put together the timeline of this, that like this was, interspecies relationships were outlawed even when she was a young girl. Like, she has not grown up in a time where this was ever acceptable. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely all formed and shaped her worldview. But like I said, it just, even though you might be able to predict like that a twist is coming, I don't know that you would know exactly what those twists are. And just told through this lens of these anthropomorphic humanoids is really interesting. And the art is so like, it's just so like alive, mm-hmm. Especially after I've read a couple of real dead old school art things lately, like Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This is just so beautiful to read and look at. And it absolutely hooked me. And I'm so glad that I have the single issues, and we'll probably continue to get physical copies, but the next volume I'll probably buy digitally so that I'm able to just sort of read all the chapters together and take it in that way.
Nice.
I mean, it's definitely like, especially with the great like close-ups and detail on, like, Mirka Andolfo almost uses the panels. I guess I was trying to describe this a little bit with the lips digression as like zoom ins, where like a series of panels is like basically the same, like staging, but they're just zooming in on like a detail of that staging as the story gets told. And so going through the guided view, of course, just makes it so perfect, because you're just getting that cinematic quality of like, the wide shot to the close up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, it's definitely not safe for work or trains or planes or any sort of public space. It is not, it's not appropriate for children whatsoever. Although the covers would probably give that away. But it is, it's so weird to describe something with such a dark subject matter as like a fun read. But honestly, I think that's what the art does to me. Like, I'm like, oh, I enjoyed this so much. I just can't wait to dive into the next big volume of it.
Very cool. Well, you've convinced me to go give it a try, and I'm glad you did, because I always, for whatever reason, I think because there is so much to consume and look at when you walk into a shop, I don't typically, if it's in a bag that I can't open, I'm like, okay, whatever.
Exactly.
So the fact that this next time I go in, I will search this out and just give it a chance, or go to Comixology and grab grab it if it's on sale, or if it becomes part of their membership, which I need to get back on again. I got a lot of value out of that membership last year. But yeah, I like that.
I mean, it's definitely, and it's, there's probably a bigger question that we don't want to get into today, but let's just put a pin in it and keep coming back to it of, there's something that, the way, especially the way we've talked about how Image does those first trades, where generally the first collection of any Image book is $9.99.
Yeah.
That is such a good way to do this, because I feel like those titles, they need to survive to the first trade so you can see it in bulk and know where it's going.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like after that, it's easy to decide on a new series. Yeah, I want to start picking up the single issues because I don't want to wait for the trade. I know there's 2 more single issues out of this that I have not yet read.
Well, there's also the economics, especially with Image. And this is really interesting because the current, hang on a second here. The current editor-in-chief of Image, Eric Stevenson, has 2 titles that have basically not canceled, but they're on indefinite hiatus because the solicitations went down, and they're Not Like Us, which had 2 issues left in the current series, and then Nowhere Man, 2 of my favorite series. Eric Stevenson's the author, and he's the editor-in-chief of Image. Yeah. And if they don't, if you don't solicit single issues at a certain rate, they won't continue the series. So, and I'm torn by that because I love certain things, especially They're Not Like Us. I want to read in one collected volume. Yeah. But I'm learning pretty quickly that if you don't get on board with some of these single issues when they happen, that does impact the longevity and health of a series. If it's not like, unless it's by Hickman or any of those big, big time, big creators, like those guys can kind of do whatever they want. But some of these smaller series, you really need to give them a chance. If you like it, go grab single issues or go grab some variant covers that you really like to keep it afloat.
Absolutely. And it's, this has done Unnatural has done a really awesome job with the variant covers. They're not all as lewd as I described that one. But there's in the collected edition, there's a ton of what we call the DVD extras. Yeah. So you see a bunch of those variant covers and different artists interpreting the character. And, I just love that stuff. And honestly, seeing that in the digital, that makes me want to go get the print of the collected edition. Yeah. Cause I'm like, oh, I actually want these in print, like, in a book. But yeah, I just, it was so cool to finally read the whole thing at once and get into the story and just, adore the art and feel like, I can't wait to read the next one. Nice. Yeah, that's a rare feeling. Even when I love a book, it tends to be one or the other, the story or the art that's pulling me along. And yeah, so
cool.
This had it all.
Cool. Well, Todd, where can folks find us if they want to get more book reviews and thoughts and points of view and all that good stuff? Where can they find us?
Sure. We're on every podcast, popular podcast app and platform that you might want. Stitcher and Google Podcasts and iTunes. You love Pocket Casts. And we're everywhere. So look for Panelism on those places. You can also find us on Instagram at panelism.ink. Yep, we've got the dot and the ink in there, and that's ink like the stuff you paint with or write with. And I gotta plug I gotta keep saying our Instagram is like one of the best things we've done because it turns out, who would have thought, comics are kind of a visual medium. Yeah. And it took us this long to get an official Instagram account running, 3 years of doing a podcast. And it's just this cool place where we show off a lot of our favorite panels or the books that we're talking about that week, or, just highlight. We do things like on Fridays, highlight a first issue of a certain series that we're enjoying. And definitely follow us on Instagram. You can also find us on the web at panelism.ink. That is a new domain. And that is pretty much the exhaustive list.
There you go. Well, folks, you can find, like you already told us where you can find us. We'll catch you again on next episode. And thanks for listening. Tell your friends, and I'll talk to you next time, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
God, what is my outro?
I don't know, dude. I never have one. What could that even be?
Oh boy.
What is it with you? And you've been on a really weird kick lately. I salute you, but man, talk about.
Save it for the podcast. Let me get the intro.